Good afternoon, everyone. And okay, we're back. Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to our focus activity 8 to 10. Today, we are going to talk about Banksy. Um, my name is Michelle, and if you've been here before, you might have seen me. I'm from Pakistan, and I've been teaching in Milano Meravili for about a year, more than a year and a half now. Um, if you are here and watching us, we would love it if you guys wrote into us. Introduce yourselves, tell us where you're from, tell us what you do, and of course, tell us your name. We will have another teacher joining us shortly. Jadine is on her way. She's having some network issues, but she'll be here soon. Okay, so we are going to talk about Banksy today. If any of you are familiar with the artist and are interested in learning more, hello!
Hi, sorry, I could not log into Gmail, but I am here.
No worries, tech issues.
Always, always.
So, would you like to introduce yourself?
Yes, I will quickly. And sorry I'm late. I like to make an entrance. My name is Jadine. I am 25 and I am from London in England, but now I live in Milan. And I said in the last one, a fun fact. I don't have really a fun fact, but I like cactuses. So this is something about me. This may be a bit personal. I like
Sorry,
cactuses.
one sec. I think my headphones.
No problem.
Okay, we're
And we
good.
have Laura. I think I just had Laura as well in my last webinar, I think. So it's nice to see you again if it is the same Laura. If not, then welcome. Welcome.
Fantastic. So, what do you think about our focus today?
Um, I think it's definitely an interesting focus. And hopefully we're all going to use our opinions. But what do I think about Banksy?
Mm-hmm.
I like Banksy. I really like street art and graffiti in general.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, as long as it's done with the intent to be artistic, not just kind of anyone just scribbling on the wall.
Mm-hmm.
But I like different colors. I like creativity. So I think it can make cities look really, really nice.
Yeah, absolutely. And Laura confirms that she is the same one, the same
Yay!
girl we saw in your last webinar.
Yay, I
Okay,
love it.
so in this focus activity, we are going to look at street art and positive and negative reactions to an artist. And through it all, of course, guys, write to us and let us know what you think.
Exactly.
Would you like to take the slide?
I would. So the question at the top, and also answer it, is have you ever heard of Banksy? Because maybe you have no idea who Banksy is. Um, in which case, I hope we can let you know by the end of the lesson. So, Banksy began as a freehand graffiti artist in 1990 to 1994. By 2000, he had turned to the art of stenciling after realizing how much less time it took to complete a piece. He soon became widely renowned for his artworks around Bristol and London. Banksy's stencils feature striking and humorous images, occasionally combined with slogans. The message is usually anti-war, anti-capitalist, or anti-establishment. The identity of the figure Banksy has always been a mystery, but there have been numerous rumours and theories. His art draws much criticism and controversy, but this shadow figure street artist has become famous worldwide. And we have Melissa from Milan. Don't worry that you're late. I was also late, so it's fine.
Okay, we have some interesting words here, right?
Yeah,
So
definitely.
graffiti artist, first freehand. So freehand drawing, when you draw freehand, is when you don't have a stencil or anything like that to guide you. So it's done just by the means of coordinating your hand and your eye, and you don't use any tools like rulers or stencils or anything else. I think it's quite exciting. I could never do that. I can't draw a straight line with a ruler.
No, I'm rubbish.
So okay, and then we have Yun. Hey Yun, how are you? So good to see you
Hello.
here. Okay, and we use the word stencils, right? How would you describe stencils?
So a stencil is basically an image that has been cut out of a sheet of paper, and then you can draw or color through the gaps to print the image onto a new piece of paper. So I think if we quickly just go to the next slide, there's a
Yeah,
piece of Banksy's art,
yeah.
and we can see, yeah. So for example, here you can see that instead of painting this woman in black, he's cut her out of a bigger sheet and then just colored in. So you get really clean lines. It's kind of it's a good way, I think, for children to draw if you want
Yeah.
your child to produce something and not be too messy. Yeah, it's nice. It's definitely faster, although I mean, I don't know how long it takes Banksy or anyone to produce a stencil. I've only ever bought stencils that were already made. So I feel
Yeah.
like it's also a task trying to like get the proportions and the size together.
Yeah, I think it's a bit of a task to assemble everything. Okay, then we have a few more words here that I think we should just quickly look at.
Yeah.
Stenciled features. So Banksy's stencils feature striking and humorous images, occasionally combined with slogans. So I want to look
Okay.
at the word striking. Striking is an adjective. It's used as an adjective here, but to strike is a verb and it means to hit.
Yes.
To hit, um, but striking, on the other hand, is a adjective, and it means when something captures your attention immediately, it's striking.
Yeah, it's actually a really nice adjective. So it's a horrible verb.
Yeah.
It's a really nice adjective. And you can use this to describe people, even. You can say a person is striking, and it's a compliment. It means that their appearance grabs your attention.
Absolutely. And I think the last one I want to talk about is shadow figure.
Okay.
So this is used. Okay, so obviously some artistic liberties have been taken in creating this term, and basically what it means is someone who isn't real because we don't know who he is. He's obviously a real person, but we don't know who this person is. So it's a person who lives in the shadows and should normally in normal circumstances when you talk about a shadow person you talk about the supernatural, but obviously this is a real person with no supernatural ties, so it's just someone who lives and works
That we know
hidden
of.
away.
Exactly. So someone you don't see, usually if people are hiding or lurking in the shadows, you can't really see them. You can't see who they are clearly. So it's nice. It adds, I think, for Banksy, it adds this kind of level of mystery.
Yeah, it definitely makes them very mysterious and intriguing at the same time.
Yeah. Um, there is another word as well in the
Mm.
last sentence or nearly, which is his art draws much criticism. And I
Mm.
know that many of you know what criticism means. But I think often what people don't realize is that if it's outside of art, if someone is giving you criticism, it's usually negative. So if you want
Mm.
it to be positive, you have to qualify it by saying positive criticism.
Right. Or you can just be more generic and call it feedback.
Yeah,
But
exactly. You can say feedback or critique as well
yeah.
is a nice one. But I've heard people describe in the past, oh yeah, someone was giving me criticism, or oh, I was giving someone criticism. But it's a really negative and harsh word. So it's not something to say lightly. You don't criticize someone in a nice way.
Right, absolutely. It has very negative connotations.
Mm.
And over here, there are several puns, which are words which have double meanings. For example, his art draws much criticism. So, draw, obviously, to sketch, right? But over here, draw also means pulls in or generates. So that's a fun little word fun over there. Moving on. Okay, so we have this. This is one of his pieces in London, I believe. What do you think about it, JD?
Um, I think I've seen this actually. Um, and I think it's quite funny. It's a woman who kind of should be cleaning something nicely, whatever. But what she's doing is she is taking the dirt or the trash or whatever she has swept up and she's hiding it away. And rather than removing it. And we have a phrase in English which is to
Mm,
sweep something under the carpet. And if you sweep something under the carpet, it's when you are presented with a problem, but instead of fixing it or doing anything to solve it, you just pretend that it's not there or that you can't see it. Um, so, yeah, I think this piece is definitely very critical of British society and especially the upper classes because you have a maid, which Michelle has put here, who's the woman who is providing the cleaning, usually in more richer families. Um, but yeah, isn't really doing her job. She's just hiding all of the problems. I like it.
right, and that's one of the central themes in all his work, where he's trying to convey a message of some sort. Usually, it has to do with like our previous slide has seen anti-war, anti-establishment, anti-capitalist.
Exactly. We have another phrase which I like, which is that a picture speaks
Mm.
1,000 words. And it's also true when you're learning English. Maybe you can't remember the word. You can draw a picture as well or act it out. But sometimes a shared image is stronger at sharing a meaning or conveying a meaning than trying to discuss it.
Absolutely. Okay, so this is the negative criticism. Banksy is not an artist in an authentic way. As an artist, Banksy stops existing when there is no news about him. Right now, he is a story once again because a mural by him Street art and graffiti are no longer allowed to describe his pricey work, has been removed from a wall and put up for auction. Next week, the story will be forgotten, and so will Banksy, until the next time he becomes a headline. Okay, this is very strong.
Definitely. Although a side note, actually, sorry, I have a question, and maybe you know the answer to it, Michelle. But because Banksy is supposed to be anonymous, so no one knows who he is, when his work is for sale or for auction, who gets the profits or the money?
Yeah, that is actually a really good question, and I was looking that up for the sole purposes of this class. And so there are a couple of organizations. There's one organization in particular that he is associated with, and then the funds from that organization go to causes that he feels strongly about, which are
Oh,
usually anti-war, anti-capitalist.
okay.
However, many of his murals and paintings have been taken off walls and been tried and have been sold to private collectors. And as an artist, I've heard that he feels very strongly against it.
Mm.
And if you remember 2018 when they tried to sell a girl with a balloon,
Is it the one that set fire?
yeah, the one that shredded, right? So they tried to sell this without his permission, and at an auction, no less. So I think literally minutes after the hammer went down and the painting was sold for I think 1.5 million, there was a mechanism inside the frame that caused the picture to shred.
I
But
love it.
the power of this artist is such that that painting is actually worth more now than it was before.
Oh my goodness.
So that's quite funny, and I think that's the power of art, right? It can bring people together in strange ways.
Yes, but it's also funny, or a good word to use is maybe irony. When we say funny in
Mm.
this way, we don't mean funny, it makes us laugh. We just mean there's something not very good with the situation. But lots of his art is to do with anti capitalism. But the funny or uncomfortable thing about it is that the only people who can afford his art are the very wealthy. So there's a bit of a yeah, it's a bit strange, but
Yeah, it is a bit strange. And also, if you think about where his exhibitions take place, so his exhibitions, which basically take place in the grungy areas of big cities, so like in Palestine, in Bristol. So he likes to highlight areas which are underdeveloped, underfunded, or have a crisis going on. And
right.
then his paintings are sold for vast amounts of money in fancy museums. So you used a word which was, it's a difficult word for some people to understand, ironic, which comes from the word irony. And sometimes people confuse irony with coincidence. Have you ever come across that?
No, I haven't, but I'm sure I will now.
Right, so it happens occasionally. The difference between irony and coincidence. So, irony is expressing your meaning with language that usually signifies the opposite. Usually for effect or for humor or just to emphasize something. Whereas a coincidence is when two related things happen at the same time. So, the famous song by, this really bothers me, the famous song by Alanis
Alanis
Morissette.
Morissette, yes.
Isn't it ironic? No, it's not. It's really not.
So okay, so is this coincidences that she's describing?
Yeah, I think she's describing coincidence because it's not irony. Like a man who gets a ticket and who wants to fly on a plane and then his plane comes down. That's not ironic. That's a coincidence because you
Hmm.
use language to signify the opposite.
I see. Now I have to think then, because I don't believe it's a coincidence either. So I'm not sure. Hmm.
We'll have to do a
Oh,
deep dive into this.
oh, this is going to drive me crazy. Okay.
Okay, so this is a really famous painting. It's a British cop peeing um, on the street. What do you think this is meant to symbolize?
Well, okay, yeah. So this just for some background first. So this person is, I'm not sure if they were ever a police officer, but these are the it's the traditional outfit of the armed guards that
Hmm.
surround and protect Buckingham Palace, where the Queen sometimes lives. I don't know where she lives all the time, but these are the people that stand outside. They guard it. Famously, they are not allowed to smile. So now they're not out anymore. But in the past, you would see people trying to get them to laugh or smile. Um, but here you you have this person maybe abusing his power by just disrespecting the city he lives in. I'm not sure. I'm not sure exactly what it should mean, but again, I do like it. I think it's funny. You have someone who's not supposed to smile, but peeing openly on a building. It's, yeah, again, a bit of a clash of what should happen and maybe what Banksy believes is happening.
Right, and this is an important point to highlight, right? Like, as the palace guards, they aren't really allowed to smile, and they have to have a very serious, neutral expression whenever they are working. So perhaps this painting aims to highlight how human they are at the end of the day.
That's
The job,
nice.
yeah,
I
the
think that's
job
a
is just
nice
a job.
meaning.
Right, the job is just a job, but this is the more human side. They need to use the bathroom like everyone else, and sometimes they go on the street.
It's actually a crime to pee on the street. So maybe
Right.
it can have two meanings. They are yeah, they are human too, which is the nice meaning, or probably the bad meaning, which are the protectors actually don't respect the land. Or maybe
Um,
it means something completely different. If you have an opinion, please tell us. That's a nice thing about art. Everyone's,
yeah,
no matter what the art is supposed to mean, it means something different to everyone who sees it. So let us know.
absolutely. That's the beauty of art. We look at the same thing, we see different things, and we connect differently. Okay, this is a good one. This is obviously not something that's just drawn up for amusement. I believe this one has a title. It's even called Cash Grab.
Okay. I'm just going to hide us for a second to make it bigger.
Sure,
That works just so people can see it a bit better.
perfect. This one is called Cash Grab, and in the background, there's an ATM machine, and the ATM machine has these mechanical arms which are grabbing this tiny child, this girl, and lifting her up. And I think this was a commentary on, my opinion, is that this is a commentary on capitalism and the effects it has on children in particular, and how children grow up in a capitalist society and think it's normal, it's the way to be. That is my interpretation. What do you think, Jadine?
So I've actually never seen this before. Um, yeah, so maybe it's about sorry, give me a second.
Guys,
Yeah,
if you've got an
maybe
opinion,
it.
write to us and let us know. Sorry, continue.
Um, no, it's fine. I definitely agree it's about capitalism, and yeah, maybe the effects on children. So maybe in traditionally you would have a parent, kind of picking up a child, but instead you have this cash machine. So kind of like they don't have a choice. They're born into this society where you will essentially have to be protected by or rely on economics instead of, kind of in societies where they have other values, like maybe more family groups, maybe money isn't so important. But yeah, I don't know. I've never seen this before. It's quite scary though. I don't particularly like it. I'm more of a fan of Banksy's comical work. This is a
Right.
bit this is a bit Black Mirror style. I don't like it.
Yeah, it is. And unfortunately, I think it's really apt, and it really reflects what's going on today across the world, where countries are struggling to find a balance between economic stability and keeping their population healthy.
Mm.
Deep
Yeah,
dark.
it makes me uncomfortable.
Definitely.
Really not a fan of this. Okay, it's gone good.
Oh, and before, let's just talk about this phrase, cash grab. Um, it's quite common these days, and basically, it's when a product is designed primarily with the purpose of generating money or profits. The product doesn't need to be something that is useful or improves people's lives in any way. And a really good example of this is when movie studios release completely horrible movies and it's a cash grab, or when influencers promote products which are absolute rubbish. It's a cash grab.
Yeah. If anyone knows the director Michael Bay, I'm gonna come for
Oh,
him on the internet. This guy is top cash grabber. Just stop. He makes some good films and then he'll just make like a sequel and a threequel because the money will come and it's stop it. You're ruining the films. So Melissa has given us a response to cash grab. So she says, honestly, I don't like it. Me either. But I think that it has a deep meaning. Children born in a society which is completely based on the value of money. Yeah. Yeah, it's
mm,
true. It's true. I think that's really, really well said, Melissa.
absolutely. And that's the beauty of discussing art, right? I say something, Jadine says something, you guys say something, and we come away with a completely different perspective.
Mm,
Would you like to read the positive reaction?
sure. So, a typical Banksy work is clever but blunt, political but ironic, realistic but somehow still whimsical. Banksy's entire anonymous career might be the greatest act of marketing the art world has ever seen. Banksy's projects have come to be cherished as emblems of creativity and beauty. His work always leaves plenty of room for debate. Banksy's murals are designed to disrupt people from their daily routines, to make them stop and notice something, to see things differently.
Okay, so here we have a few words which are a few adjectives which are really good, but can be a little complicated. Okay, so first up, we have the word blunt. So if you're watching Netflix these days, you might have heard it used as a noun. And as a noun, it is when a cigarette is emptied out and filled with something else. But as an adjective, when you are blunt, you are very direct with no, and you don't beat around the bush. You're very honest and straightforward. We've just discussed ironic. I'm sure you guys know political and realistic. Whimsical. Okay, I really like this word, even though I don't really ever use it.
Yeah, I agree. I feel the same way.
So it's something, it's whimsical, it's playful, it's fun, it's amusing. The next word I'd like to look at is cherished. And you can use it as an infinitive as well. You can say to cherish. It is a verb, and basically means to protect and care for someone. Okay, next up we have emblem. So this is a good word. Do you use albums? Sorry, albums.
Do I use the
Emblem.
word? Do I use the word
Emblem.
emblem? No, I don't. I think an emblem is kind of like a symbol or a badge
Mhm.
to mark maybe your work organization or your family. Some people have what's called a family crest. Or as well, if you ever watched Game of Thrones, I can't speak, the family crests that they all had. This is like an emblem or a symbol of something. So in those cases, it was a symbol of their family.
Okay,
Ooh,
perfect.
I like this. It stands for something that cannot be pictured.
Right, because it stands for family, and for example, an emblem could have a picture of an owl or an eagle, but I'm sure there are no owl or eagles in your family tree. But it's something that can't be pictured. Okay,
Yeah,
and last word, a mural. So mural is basically a painting on a wall.
yeah. Yeah, usually it had some kind of symbolic or significant meaning. For example, in an area, usually it's quite bad. So in an area where something tragic has happened, maybe someone has been hit by a car or something bad has happened. But then moving forward, people want to feel more positive. Maybe a change has been implemented. People can make a mural on the wall to symbolize this kind of period of change or that something good is now happening. Obviously, a really famous example is the Berlin Wall. Now that is full
Mm.
of murals to symbolize, hope and change and blah, blah, blah. It doesn't
That's a
always have to
beautiful
have a meaning,
example.
but usually I think a mural is for a reason. Otherwise, it's just graffiti, isn't it?
Right, so I think that is what is the debate here, right? What is graffiti and what is art? So as we move through this, we see some more of his work. This is one of my favorites. It's called The Flower Thrower, and it's in the West Bank.
Okay, yes.
So there is some significance of the paintings, of this particular painting. The ones we saw before were funny or were trying to talk about society in general. This one has a very specific message. As you know, the West Bank, Gaza, Palestine, they are dangerous zones, and there are some terrorist activities. And usually, what people throw there are grenades. Grenades are the tiny hand bombs. You know, you pull a plug out, you throw it, big explosion. Yeah, so instead of a grenade, this man is throwing a flower, and obviously, this message is meant to promote peace and is designed to make people think about the effect of war on in that part of the world.
Mm. It's true. I also think that this person looks quite young, based on the outfit. He's wearing a backwards cap, etc. And I think a lot of the time, at least maybe the people I know, but I feel like younger generations, or it's just a bit all the time. So for every year, I feel like younger people tend to be the ones that kind of have hope and are more liberal. Obviously, there tends to be the pattern that as you age, you become more conservative. But I think this is symbolic of the idea that younger people would like to promote peace, they would like to promote hope, even if they're not really given that situation or that opportunity to do so.
Yeah, I think that's an important observation because, as we know, most of the people who die in Gaza and on the West Bank, etc., are young. You know, they're
Hmm.
below. They're children. They're teenagers. They're usually below
Yeah,
30. So,
it's very
and
sad.
I think the emphasis on his youth, on this painting's youth, is quite intentional.
Yeah, definitely. I think as well, young people are often seen as being aggressive, particularly young men, more
Mm,
angry, more aggressive, and I think this image goes against that, which I like.
absolutely.
Like it goes against. This is another word, so it goes against. Maybe I'm using this word wrong. The negative stigma or the stigma around young
Yeah.
people. So a stigma is kind of like a negative association of something.
Mm.
Yes, so this goes against the stigma.
Okay, let's move on to the next. Okay, so this is a fun painting, but this one also had a political message. So this painting was in Bristol, outside a sexual health clinic, which was underfunded. So I think the idea here was to attract attention to the clinic in some way or form.
Oh, that's nice. Sorry. So Melissa has also given us a comment. She says
Mhm.
also in Venice, there is a mural that has a similar meaning. There is a child just landed from a boat. He has escaped or he escaped from his home because of war. I don't know if I've ever seen this. Maybe
I,
I'll Google it.
yeah, I think you probably have, but like don't it
But I
didn't
didn't know it was
register
in
as
Venice.
Venice. Yeah.
Mm. On the image.
Okay, so let's talk about describing the art now. So this description is very straightforward. It's just a physical description of what is presented in the painting. Would you like to read, JD?
Sure. So, for example, this piece of street art was stenciled onto a wall and is quite comical. A man is hanging out of a window, attempting to conceal himself. There is there is another man. I think there's a typo. So sorry, there is it should just say another man, not
Yeah.
another man, in a suit leaning out of the window, perhaps the husband of the semi-naked woman, searching for something. He suspects the obvious.
Okay, so this is a very straightforward description. What do you think of this piece?
Um, I mean, definitely is funny. It's also a bit sad. Yeah, it's a bit sad for this man.
Yeah.
He's looking one way, and so again we have another phrase in English, which is when the answer or something is right under your nose. Um, which is when there is something that's very obvious, but it's almost so obvious that you don't see it. So if something was directly under your nose, it's right in front of you, but it's unlikely you ever look here. So yeah, I think it's quite sad. Bless him.
Yeah, it's really sad. But this piece was the first legal piece of British street art.
Really? So is this
Mhm.
one of the older pieces then?
I think this is 2009,
Okay.
so it's not that old, but and it has been defaced. Okay, defaced. So when something has been defaced, it's been destroyed in a way that um, ruins its physical appearance. So
Yeah.
unfortunately, it was defaced with a paintball gun.
Oh no.
Yeah, but it has since been restored. But it was defaced again in 2018, and now they're trying to restore it once more.
Yeah, so another word we can use is vandalized. So if something has been vandalized, which you could even say this wall has been vandalized or defaced as well, it's when someone paints or writes or ruins the appearance of something. So the wall had been vandalized by this art, and then the art was later vandalized by someone else. The irony is it ironic? No.
I think that's ironic.
No, I just don't know.
Okay, so this is a good question. How does the context of the artwork change the meaning? And I think you can see this in the last picture as well. It's a little bit sad, it's a little bit funny, but where was the piece of art created? It was created outside a sexual health clinic, and which was underfunded, and the goal was to attract attention there. This, I think, is also in Palestine. I'm not sure, but mhm,
I say I don't know because I think this shop is written in English.
could be. But I know he had a similar one. This is true. It says gallery and firewood. Nice eye.
Okay. Yeah, so again, maybe it's to make people in the UK, I'm assuming it's in the UK, uncomfortable.
Mm.
Because this is an image, it's an image we see all the time in the news. You have a sniper, you have a child who is holding a bag, which I can only assume contains something that he should not have. And when you see this image on the news, it feels very normal, which is sad. But it feels normal to see it in another country. So it's, again, to see it in your own country, it makes you feel uncomfortable. To have the art of a gun pointed at you also makes you feel uncomfortable because it's something you can never imagine having to face.
True. Okay, let's talk about this. What do you think of Banksy? Do you think street art can ever be considered as real art, or is it just vandalism? Oh,
Oh, where is the screen? It's just us for you at the end.
okay, what do you think? Do you think street art is real art?
Yeah, I do. I think that street art is a form of expression, which I really like. I think people often, like in the first Banksy painting we saw, want to sweep things under the carpet. Countries want to hide their problems. They want to hide poverty. They want to hide homelessness, etc. But these are all things that are very real. And I think in more poor or more urban, they say, areas where people have defaced the wall or have written something obscene, so maybe something with swear words or something anti-government, that represents a true feeling of how a person or maybe people in that area feel. So even if you don't like it, it's not a concept, it's real people's feelings, which, yeah, I think it's good to be aware of. So I like it.
Okay, question two. In your opinion, is Banksy a bona fide artist, or do you agree that he is not an artist in an authentic way? Well, I definitely think he's a real artist because art is so subjective. Who gets to decide that
Yeah,
you are an artist or you aren't an artist? He
definitely.
produces work which is, and all his work is appreciated by millions of people. People pay millions to get even a shredded painting by him.
Crazy.
It's insane. So I definitely think that to say he is not an artist in an authentic way is a very elitist point of view towards art. And I think the whole point of art is to break down walls. Okay, do you want to take question three?
Yes, so it says, if you walked past a work by Banksy, would it make you stop and take notice of it? It depends how much of a rush I was in. Probably yes, I would notice it. But I think any type of stencil art, because now there's not just Banksy, you see a lot more stencil art. I guess you can call them copycat artists, so people who make art in a similar style to someone who is already established exists, and I like it. I see it, but I don't know if I would have the time to linger and think about what the art means really in detail. It depends how my day is. What about you?
Yeah, I'm the same. I'm usually running late and I'm always running from one place to another. So I honestly would probably miss it in my rush. But if I was out taking a walk, um, I think I would notice it. And I think
Mm.
just like you, if you were out, not in a rush, you would take the time to stop and appreciate it.
Yeah, and I think if art is really special, you do notice it. I
Mm,
used to live in Melbourne, and they have I don't know what you call it, but lots of street art everywhere, but also lots of street artists who make really big murals, like huge. And there was an artist that I found because her work was so beautiful, and you just notice it everywhere. Um, I think this is her name, Loretta Lizio. Um, so you can Google her. But I think when art really stands out and you can't help but notice it, then you
mm.
because I'm not particularly like an art person, but if it's something maybe you're waiting for a bus and you notice it, then you would look for similar work by that person.
True. Okay, the last one. Why do you think so many of Banksy's works have been painted over or destroyed?
Because it's funny.
Well, some of it is inappropriate, like the naked man hanging out
It's true.
out the window.
Maybe if he's doing this art in areas which are traditionally less wealthy and probably more likely to have street art anyway, then maybe people don't understand or don't realize the significance of it, so they just paint over it, or maybe because people think, why should he get this extra attention? I can put my work here, maybe someone will see it. Many reasons.
Yeah, and sometimes, the government authorities, local government, doesn't appreciate their walls being painted over. And they view it as graffiti, which is terrible, but they don't appreciate it the way we do. So I think, or they don't agree with the message. So they prefer to cover it over or deface it in some way. But nowadays, portions of walls and buildings are sold for millions just because his work is on it. So because of the economic value, it doesn't happen that often.
Oh, then I love this answer by
Hmm,
Melissa. I think because they tell the truth, and sometimes it's difficult to accept. Yeah, it's true. It is
beautiful.
his art is very critical of many parts of society, and people don't like criticism. So really nice, Melissa. Antonio says, "How about the painting?" So the noun is a painting. Paint is the the colors that you use to make a painting.
Hmm.
Um, of the girl with the mask.
Right.
Which one?
That's very new. I think that was just this week. And it's
Oh,
basically the
really?
girl with the pearl earring. So she has a mask and a massive clear eardrum.
I'm just
It's in
googling it
Twister.
now.
So I think that's pretty intelligent. The mask in particular is similar to the mask that NHS staff are wearing while they treat
Okay.
their patients.
Well, how interesting. Okay.
Okay.
So yeah, we've
Yeah.
reached the end of the webinar where really
Mhm.
Michelle and I just talked and talked. But thank you for watching, Melissa as well. Thank you for your contributions. They were really good.
Absolutely. Thank you for joining us. We had a good time discussing art. We hope you had a good time listening to us. Thank you for contributing and have a good weekend.
Bye bye.
Bye,
Bye.
everyone.